Hello, everyone, and welcome to Getting Started with IQ4. I cannot believe that for most of us in the world, it is the beginning of the school year. Some of us are right in the middle. Some of us have already gotten started. Some of us are going back very soon. We're so excited to get you here. If you've used your board before, if you've had IQ for a little while, you might notice that there's quite a few changes that are launching in your board. So I'm really excited that we've got Lindsay here. I'm going to bring her on screen in just a moment. That's going to walk us through how to get started and maybe give you a little sneak peek of some of those new updates that you might notice. Hey, Lindsay, how are you?
Good morning, Mish. I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for being here, Linz. We're super excited to get everyone started. For everyone that's here, I'll be in the chats. If you've got any questions throughout the time, go ahead and put those in the chat. I'll be behind the scenes answering those. And with that, Linz, I'm going to let you take it away.
Great. Thanks, Mish. Well, thanks everyone for joining and thanks for those watching later. My name is Lindsay and I am the area manager here in California. So hello to all my other Californians. A little bit about me is I'm a former elementary school teacher and I have my background in special education. And if you want to learn some more tips and tricks after this webinar, go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Lumify with Linz. You can also scan that QR code. I post quick 1 to 2 minute videos on updates that come out, cool things in your panel that you might not know that it does. You can also always ask me questions there to learn more. Before we get started with our webinar on IQ4, I want to make sure that you are in the right place. So IQ4 is our software, our smart software, and you might have heard of IQ because you might have an IQ3 panel. So I want you to take a look at this picture and make sure that you're in the right place. Your panel should look like this one. It will have some apps on it, similar to like a smartphone. You'll see your recent files and your favorite files here. If you have IQ3, your board is going to look like this here on the left, where you might notice it doesn't really look like smartphone apps, and you'll have this toolbar along this side. If your board looks like IQ3, you want to make sure to go back and watch any IQ3 webinars because this is going to be pretty different if you have an IQ3 board. So just make sure that you have IQ4. If you have IQ4, then you're in the right place. Awesome. All right. Actually, before we get here, I do just want to mention that if your board doesn't look like this on the outside, maybe it looks a little bit different, that's okay. I'm going to talk about the different panels that run IQ4. So it might not look like that on the outside. It actually might look like this on the outside, like my board behind me. But as long as the inside looks like IQ4, then you are good. So to start, we're going to talk about taking care of your board. So you have this awesome panel in your classroom. You want to make sure that it lasts a long time, right? And so we want to take care of it. And so when you take care of your board, think about it like how you take care of your TV at home, right? So the best way, the number one way to clean your board is going to be a microfiber cloth. So just taking a cloth and wiping down your board is going to get rid of those finger marks. It's going to take off any smudges that you have, and it's going to keep the visual representation really nice and keep it nice and clean. Now, if you're like, Lindsay, that is not going to clean my board well enough, I need more than just a cloth, you can always spray a little bit of water directly onto the cloth and then wipe it down on the board. We never want to spray directly on the panel. Just like I said, you wouldn't spray directly onto your TV, right? So you want to make sure that you can spray on the cloth and then you can wipe it down. Before you interact with your panel or have your students interact, as best as you can, because I know there's lots going on in the classroom, you just want to make sure you have clean hands, right? Kids have sticky fingers, but they're coming in from recess and they have dirt all over their fingers. You know, have them wash their hands, wipe their hands before they interact with the panel, and that's going to help keep it nice and clean. Things we don't want to do to our panel to take care of it. We don't want to put any magnets on or around it. We also don't want to tape anything to it. And we don't want to write on it with any markers. We only want to use our smart pens, right? If you have tape has that sticky residue, and if you're putting it on your board, it's going to leave sticky residue and it's going to make it hard to interact with. Same thing with markers. You don't want to be writing on it with markers. You're going to get marker marks all over the board. You have your smart pens to be able to interact with the panel. So clean it when you have time with a microfiber cloth. Make sure your hands are clean and don't use magnets, tapes, or markers on the outside of your panel. Awesome. Now that your board is all nice and clean and taken care of, let's talk about the outside of the panel first. So our two main panels that if you're watching this webinar, you probably have in the classroom is either an MX or an RX. Now, if you're like, I have no idea which one that I have, I've never seen those letters before, they're always going to be in the top left-hand corner of your panel. It'll say the word SMART, and then it'll have the model of your board. So I know that I am on a Smart MX panel because it says it right here. So that's how you can figure out which panel that you're using. Now, both of these panels run iQ4, because what I call the brain of the panels. They have the same brain, but the outsides look a little bit different. They're like fraternal twins. So I'm going to quickly go over the differences of the outside of the panel, and then we're going to talk about the inside of the panel. So on your MX board, you have some really important buttons on the front of your board on your convenience panel. Now, all of your boards come with a smart remote, and a lot of these buttons can also be found on your remote. So I'm going to quickly go through them and kind of the differences, and then we're going to go ahead and move on. So on your MX panel, you have a power button. Now this button, think of it like as if you were to click on the side of your smartphone. It's really just a sleep button, and it'll be green when your panel is on, and it'll be red when your panel is off. You have your volume up and your volume down button. Pretty self-explanatory. That's going to change your volume. You have a freeze screen button. It looks like a pause button, and this is going to temporarily turn the touch off on your panel. So it's going to freeze your screen. I really like it because I stand super close to my board. So if I accidentally hit into it, it's not going to change anything. It's also really nice if you have directions or things like that up on your screen that you want your students to view without them being able to interact with the panel. You also have a screen shade button. It looks like if you know those old school projector pull downs, that is kind of what it looks like. And that is going to put a black screen on your panel to temporarily shade what you have on there. So if you want students to pay attention to you and not worry what's going on behind them, you can click on that screen shade button. And then lastly, in your MX, you have your input button. Please don't mind my terrible drawings. And that is going to bring up your input menu, right? So it just tells you the different inputs that you have, and you'll see that green circle around the one that we're currently using. So right now we're using the Android, and so you see that green circle around the Android, but you can click to your other inputs that you might want to use on your panel. So that's on our MX convenience panel. On our RX, we're going to have some of the same buttons and some a little bit different. Your RX convenience panel is going to be on the side of your board. So not on the front, but on the side, you'll see where that little red box. And it's also going to have your power button. It's also going to have your volume up and your volume down button. And it's also going to have your freeze screen button. The difference is that it has a mute button. So here it has a mute button. So if you want to turn off the volume, you can click on that mute button, and then you can click it again to turn the volume back on. The other few little differences between your board that I want to quickly point out are going to be your pens. So right now I'm using an MX board, and so my pen looks like this. The RX board, your pen is going to have an eraser on the end, and it also is going to have a button you can click to change colors. The RX board is also going to have bar erasers. And the speakers are just going to look a little bit different, but they both have speakers, and they both have your microphone array at the top. So if you have an RX, you might just notice you might interact with your pen a little bit differently. But like I said, the brain is the same. So now when we go into the inside of the panel, all of the things that I show you on my MX, you'll be able to do on your RX. Great. So when we turn on our panel, we have our home screen that's going to look like this. And this is what we sometimes refer to as the guest profile. It means that you can walk up and you can start using your panel. But what we recommend at SMART, the first thing you do when you turn your panel on is to sign in. So you actually have the ability to sign into your panel and customize your panel to make it your own and have all the things that you need to teach ready to go. When you where to sign in, you have this little sign in guide on your navigation bar. Your navigation bar lives at the bottom of your screen. Now, if you're going, okay, but I don't see that on your board, Lindsay, you would be correct. Sometimes the navigation bar hides itself, and so you just have to swipe up from the bottom to show it. So the first thing you're going to do in your navigation bar is you're going to sign in. So you're going to click on this little guy and you're going to see this pop up here. And so there's a couple different ways that you can sign into your panel. You can scan the QR code with your phone. I really like that way because I save all of my passwords in my phone, so it's super easy. You can go to this URL, boardlogin.smarttech.com, and type in the code. You can sign in directly on your panel. Or once you sign in for the first time, you can use your NFC card that comes with your panel to sign in. When you sign in, you'll see it says sign into your SMART account. Again, you might go, well, I don't have a SMART account yet. All you do is sign in with your school email. So if you use Google or Microsoft, you're going to choose that. So if you're like, well, I have a Gmail, so click on Google, and you'll sign in just with your teacher sign in, with your teacher Gmail or your teacher Microsoft email. It's going to automatically create a SMART account for you. After you sign in for the first time, that's when you can connect your NFC card, and it looks like this. They come with your panel. And this is just an easier way for you to sign in. You can tap it on your NFC and type in a PIN to be able to sign into your profile. Once you're signed in, you can then customize your panel. So that's what we're going to talk about next, is kind of why are we signing in? What's the benefit, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and go out of this really quick. And you can see here some things that I've already customized on my home screen. I have this fun background here. I have some apps that I use every day. I have my recent files and my favorite files here. And so these are all things that you can customize to make your day nice and easy. So I'm signed in. You can see that it has my name. Manage Smart ID card is where I can attach my NFC card. And then I can go ahead and start doing things like, if I have access to the Play Store, I can go to the Play Store and download all those apps that I use every day. Maybe like Google Classroom, ClassDojo, Microsoft Outlook, the things that you want on your board to easily be able to access. When I have them on my panel, I have the ability to move them around. I can put them into folders simply by holding and dragging them just like I would on my smartphone. I can then also make sure I'm signed in to all these things I'm going to be using every day. So for example, if I am a Google district, I'm going to want to make sure I'm signed into my Google Drive and I have all of my files here directly on my board. Same thing with my Microsoft. I want to make sure I have my OneDrive on my panel, and then I sign into my OneDrive and I have all of my files directly on my board. And I can do that with any of those things that I'm using every day. So I can open up Google Classroom, ClassDojo, anything that I need on my panel. I can also do that in my Google Chrome. So you're thinking, well, I have online curriculum that I use every day. It's not an app. It's actually just a website. And so easily enough, we can go to Chrome and we can find that website and also make sure that we're signed in and save it to our home screen to use every day. So here you can see I have some Nat Geo Kids pulled up. This is the full Chrome browser, so you would use it just like you would the Google Chrome mobile browser on your phone. I can go here and I can scroll through this website, and I can pick up my pen, which I've had in my hand because I always talk with my pen in my hand, and I can start inking. So maybe we're doing a unit on monarch butterfly, and I want to reference this website a lot. I can have this website up, I can pick up my pen and ink, and I can continue to talk about the monarch butterfly. You may notice that even though I have now put ink on my screen, I'm still able to scroll through my website. So my website doesn't freeze. I'm able to continue to interact with it when I'm annotating. And then I can even erase those annotations and start new. Now, all those ways that I'm interacting, did I have to choose a menu? Did I have to click on my tools? No, my board just knows. And this is true no matter where you are on your smartboard. Your pen is always going to be your pen. Your finger is going to be mouse. And your palm is going to be an eraser. Now, even if you have an RX board and you have bar erasers, you can still use your palm to erase. Both will work as an eraser. Something you do want to note is if you're like me and you have long fingernails, you'll notice that sometimes I use my knuckle to scroll. And that's because sometimes if I try to use my finger, it'll accidentally write on it. There we go, I did it. I also wear my watch every day. And so you want to be careful if you wear jewelry, if you have long sleeves, that when you're interacting with your panel, that you're trying your best to keep those out of the way, because sometimes they'll write, right? It'll think it's a finger or it'll think it's an eraser. So you want to make sure that to your best of your ability, you're using your pen to write, you're using your palm, and then maybe your knuckle, or if you have an MX pen, I like to use the back of my pen to scroll as like a mouse. You'll notice too, when I started to ink, I got this annotation menu that popped up. Now I'm dragging on these 6 dots here, and I can move my annotation menu wherever I want, but this also lets me do a couple different things. Right now I'm just drawing in black ink, but I can click on my pen here and I can change to different colored inks. I can change the thickness, and I can even pick up a highlighter. So maybe I want to highlight a few of the things here about the monarch butterfly, like where it lives. After I have my annotations, I have a couple of different things I can do. I can clear them with my broom, so maybe I just want to get rid of them. I can download them, which essentially it takes a big screenshot, or have the ability to share them out. So if I click on my share button, you'll see I get a couple different places that I can share them. I can save these annotations with my screenshot to my drive, or I can put them in an email. Now these are an overlay, right? So if you notice while I scroll, it is not scrolling with my website, but it is on top. And so I can also just press this X button and press don't save if I want to get rid of them. Now, if I want to come back to this website every day without having to type in Nat Geo Kids Monarch Butterfly, I can click on my 3 dots over here and click on Install and Create Shortcut. And what this is going to do, it's going to add this to my home screen. So now when I click on my home button, you'll see I have a nice shortcut where every day when I come in and it's time for science, I can click here and it's going to open up this web page for me. This is going to make my day a lot easier. We're going to move quicker because I don't have to do all this typing in front of my students. So coming back here to our navigation bar, we've talked about signing in, right? So here we have our sign in button. And this navigation bar is really important. There's lots of things here that we're going to cover throughout our webinar. These other buttons here, you have your toolbox, which we'll get to later. This has some really cool different tools and widgets that you can use on your board. You also have your input menu. This is going to be the same as pressing input on the front of your panel. And then you also have your app library. This is where all of your apps that you download onto your board will live. So if I click on my app library, you can see here all the different apps. So maybe I want to hide some, or maybe I don't want them to see that I have Google Earth or GoNoodle downloaded because I know they'll go crazy. I can keep them in my app library, and I can always move things onto my homepage from my app library. If you have an Android panel or Android phone, it should look the same. If you have an iPhone, if you scroll all the way, it's where all of your apps are stored, even if you removed them from your screen. Now, when I'm in my navigation bar, these three middle buttons are how you are going to navigate throughout your board. You'll notice this middle button, it looks like a tiny little home. And it looks exactly the same as the home button on your physical panel in the middle of your panel. And that is always going to bring you back. So whenever I click it, I'm going to get back to my home screen. It's nice if you just need to quickly go back, you can press that home button. Now, if you just want to go back to your previous page, that's going to be this button here. This is your back button, right? So it's going to take you to your previous page that we're on. And then this button here is what we call our recent tabs button. And this is really similar to when you swipe up if you have an iPhone, and you can see all your current open applications. And if you're like me, that always looks like lots of applications because you don't ever close anything. And there's also a really cool, fun tool in here. I'll give you a little sneak peek called split screen that you can do from here. But you can see all of your fun applications that you have open. And just like you do on a smartphone, you can even swipe up to get rid of them. And then the other part of your navigation bar here, these are actually editable. So this section you can put in, like, think again, like the bottom of your smartphone, those apps you use the most. That's what I like to put here. What am I using the most throughout my day that I want quickly at the bottom of my screen? Right now, you have, Google Chrome, which we talked about. You have your files folder. You have Smart Mirror and Whiteboard, which we're in Whiteboard right now, but we'll talk a little bit more about later too. So those are all editable. So I'm going to go ahead and click my home button to go back to my home screen. So now here, we've talked about signing in. We've customized our board. Now that we're here and we're in our panel, we want to go ahead and start teaching, right? And so we were just in the whiteboard, but I'm going to go ahead and open up a new whiteboard. And I'm going to use my widget here that I've kind of created on my panel. And I'm going to open a new whiteboard. Now, the whiteboard has amazing features in it. Too many to talk about in this webinar. So what we like to say at Smart is be a button pusher, and that means try out all of the different things that your whiteboard has. Click on every icon, try everything out, because there are so many things available in your board, and especially in your whiteboard, that we're just not going to get time to do today. But I want to show you guys some of the really cool things that I like and I use when I'm at my board. So you can see here my whiteboard, it's just that, right? It's a digital whiteboard. My toolbar I have here at the bottom, I can move around. And again, I'm going to drag on those 6 dots. And I can even dock it to the side if I'd like, or dock it to the bottom, wherever I would like it. If you teach from the side panel, it might be nice to have it on the side. I'm going to keep it at the bottom and in the middle. The first thing, moving left to right, is you have this button here where you can open up a new file. But we're going to start here in your pen toolbar. You'll see when I click on that, we have lots of tools in our pen toolbar. And right now I'm just using a regular pen. So if I pick up my pen and I write, I'm just going to be writing in green pen. Now, you have lots of different colors you can choose from. You have the entire color wheel, so you can really customize how you're writing in your whiteboard. You also have some other cool pens that we're going to show quickly. My favorite one, and one that teachers typically tend to like, is this one right here with the 2 A's on it. This is your ink to text pen. So when I write the word hello, I'm sure as you could tell within the past 5 minutes, I don't have the best handwriting. So this makes it nice and neat. It takes my bad handwriting and it makes it nice and pretty in my ink. A little fun feature about the ink to text pen is it'll do it with emojis too. So I can take a smiley face that is just boring. Oh, let's try again. I'm going to do it with a heart, and I'm going to take my heart and then make it into a nice pretty heart. And now I have a emoji heart next to my hello. Another pen that is pretty new, that's really fun and really useful, again, for maybe math teachers or elementary school teachers, is the ink to shape pen. And so that is our last pen in our toolbar. It kind of looks like it's doing little dots around the pen. And that's going to take my shape that I've drawn and make it perfect. This would have been really helpful for me in the classroom because I cannot draw a good circle. And so like this draws a nice perfect circle, and then I can change the size, and I can do it with any different shape that I can draw. Really helpful, again, for your math teachers. Maybe you're drawing a picture, learning about perimeter. You can draw a nice shape that you can then resize and move. You'll notice every time I touch an object, we get this blue box around it, and that's allowing me to change the size. It's allowing me to move it around. And there are so many features in this drop-down menu. Again, we're not gonna have time to go over all of them. So many features, click on all of them. You can see quickly kind of what they might do. That's gonna allow you to customize how you present to your students. And then the last thing I wanna show in the pen toolbar is the ability to turn on finger inking. So if you do have students that like to work with their fingers, you can click that on, and then you can go and write with your finger. Now, if I want to move on from this page, I have the ability to clear my ink. But what I like to do, what I always do, is I click here on this plus button that's going to allow me to add a new page. Now, I can always just add a blank page, but you'll notice here I have lots of different options of things that I can add. And I have all these amazing graphic organizers just ready for me in my whiteboard. I also have fun manipulatives. These are pre-made digital manipulatives that I can choose from as well. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this brainstorming web. So now I don't have to draw it. I quickly have this brainstorming web, and I'm going to stick with butterflies. And so we're going to talk about monarch butterflies. And if I need my students to have a visual representation, I can also click on this image button, and I can search up a picture of monarch butterflies. Awesome. And here they are in the Oyamel forest. Now, if this is something that I'm doing with my students to interact, I can have them come up to the panel, and they can draw and they can add their thoughts about monarchs really easily, right? They just pick up the pen and they can write. Maybe they know that they migrate, and that can be something that they know about monarchs. But a really amazing feature about the whiteboard is I also have the ability to connect my students digitally. So if my students are one-to-one with devices, I can invite them to connect to my whiteboard simply by pressing a little people icon that right now says 0 because I have no students connected. And I get this pop-up page here. So if they have an iPad, they can scan the QR code, or if they have a Chromebook or a laptop, they can go to hellosmart.com and type in my code. And the nice thing is my code doesn't change, so that can make the students easily connect. Right now you can see I have someone connected, so Mish has connected. And right now, when she is viewing my screen, she's just gonna be viewing it. She's just looking at what I have up on my screen once I press that start session. but maybe I want Mish to have her ideas about butterflies. I have the ability to convert this into an activity. So I'm going to click on whole class whiteboard. And this is really similar if you ever used Google Jamboard. It's similar to Google Jamboard where all of my students are going to be able to add their ideas and thoughts to the same page. So in a minute, once it loads, Mish will be able to add her thoughts from her panel or her iPad. And you can see she wrote they live 2 to 6 weeks. That's really sad that that is their entire lifespan. And so I'm able to see that Mish is adding to my brainstorming. She's now drawing a little picture of a butterfly. And I love that picture. That looks amazing, Mish. And maybe I want my students, now that we have some ideas up here, to pause and reflect. I can turn my editing off. And now they're just viewing my screen again. So it adds a really great interaction where you don't just have students coming up. Maybe you have students who need that accessibility to be able to add from their panel or from their laptop or Chromebook. And you can still have students up at the board and they're both going to be able to see others' interactions. Oh, Sarah asked a question about turning off the sound. Yeah, actually, Mish, maybe you could drop video. Yeah, perfect. I knew it. Mish has a great video about how to turn the typing on the sound off. Great. So the great thing too is once your students are connected, as you move forward in your lesson, they're still going to be able to view everything you do in your whiteboard. So my students, if I move here and now maybe I want to spell the word butterfly, they're going to be able to see this on their screen. Need an R. Butterfly. There we go. Now, we don't have too much time left, so I want to quickly go over some of those tools in our toolbox because there's some really cool things in there. So maybe I'm spelling words and I want to take turns coming up and spelling words on the board. Maybe I'm having trouble. Maybe they're all raising their hands. Maybe no one's raising their hands. And I want a fair way to call students up. I'm sure a lot of teachers here have used a spinner in their classroom. And some of those digital spinners on your websites may be a little iffy. Sometimes you get some weird ads on those spinner websites. So in my toolbox here, I actually have the ability to use all these different widgets. And one of them is included is a spinner. Now, my spinner comes with some pre-made lists like numbers, consonants, continents, but I also have the ability to make my own list. And you can see here that I customize one with a bunch of my friends' names, but you could do it with your students' names, right? And whoever it lands on, that is who comes up to the board and spells the next word. Some other cool tools in here, things like a timer. So maybe we are working on this activity for the next few minutes and I want to have a timer. I can go ahead and change it to however many minutes. I can even change the sound or the color of my timer. And the great thing about these widgets is that they lay on top of everything on my board. So you can see it's still here even though I'm on my home page. If I go back into Google Chrome, my timer will still be here and I can even change its size and I can move it around. Yeah, so maybe I want it nice and big so they see, and I have what we're doing over here on the side. Now that's our built-in timer. Maybe you're like, but I have a timer that I use on YouTube and it has my favorite background music. That's so fair. I have a favorite timer too on YouTube. Well, good thing is that your board has the YouTube app directly on it. So I can click here on YouTube and I can type in and find my favorite 5-minute timer. And I can find that timer. I like this one with the cookies. That's fun.
Whether your hair feels stronger, to set an example.
And once my ad is skipped,
different goals, same choice.
I can make it full screen. or I have the ability to do picture in picture. I'm just turning the sound off so you guys can hear me. So this is really nice because, again, I can have my whiteboard open and my YouTube video, my YouTube timer is going to lay on top of whatever I have open, and I can even move it to different parts of my screen depending on where I want it. So whether you like a timer built into the board or you want to use your YouTube timer, you have the option to do both. I also just want to quickly point out in your whiteboard, if you don't ever want ads from YouTube, you can always import. Now we did an image. I can switch over to videos and it's going to safe search YouTube, and any video that I put into my whiteboard is going to be ad free. So you'll notice when I click on it, it goes directly to my video and I don't have any ads down here in the bottom of my video. All right, we've gone over a lot of information. I just want to point out one last thing before we close. This is all, again, the brain of the board. We're using the board's brain called IQ. But you always have the ability to teach from your laptop if that's what you want to do. And you can do that by plugging in and connecting. Or you can also share your screen with SmartMirror. So that is our last icon in our navigation bar. It looks like a white box with a little purple rectangle. And it's really easy to share your screen. You just go to smartmirror.link and you type in that code right there. So right now mine would be 945. Can connect. If I have a Mac and I'm on the same Wi-Fi, I can use AirPlay. If I have a Windows computer, I'm on the same Wi-Fi, I can use Miracast. And this is also really nice if you have students who want to share their work and they don't want to have to plug in or share it to your Google Drive or to your OneDrive. Students can quickly share their screen. You know, if they're presenting, they did a social studies project, they can present without you having to worry about if they shared it with you or not. You can even have, which is pretty crazy, up to 9 people sharing at the same time. So maybe you're comparing, you know, the type of math problem, the way they solved it. You can have them share those all at the same time without having to disconnect or reconnect the different apps. So you'll always have that option down here in your navigation bar. All right. So we have all this information. We've gone over this webinar, and this will be shared on YouTube. But maybe you're wondering, okay, well, I want to learn more. I want to dive deeper, or I'm going to need some additional resources to really understand. Absolutely. So what's really cool is we have something called Smart Academy. Now, we'll share out some of these links as well, but Smart Academy is online, and it's self-paced coursework where you can click through your panel and it'll kind of guide you in how to use your panel. So again, you'll want to know what type of panel you have. And if you remember, you can always find that in the top left-hand corner. So you'll want to look for anything that says if you have an MX and MX or an RX and RX. And if you remember, you can also look for any of those courses that say IQ4. So those are the different courses that you're going to look for. Thanks, Mish, for dropping those links. We also, like I mentioned before, you can follow me on Instagram for additional tips and tricks if you want to have some 1 to 2 minute videos to be able to learn more about your panel. Now, when I'm done with my panel, I also always have the option to sign out. So before we say goodbye, I could sign out of my panel just by quickly clicking on sign out here at the bottom. The last thing before we go, though, is if you learned a lot, if you have any questions after this webinar, if you just want to give some feedback, there is in the bottom there, thanks, Mish, a link to a survey to give some of your thoughts. So please go ahead and use the survey link to make sure that you give your feedback on our webinar. Oh, yes. Good question, Sarah. The AM60, I did not mention the AM60. You're right. You may have an older board that once had IQ3, and then now all of a sudden you have IQ4. It's probably because you have something called an AM60 in your panel, and that's going to have the same brain. So it's going to give you this IQ4 brain. So just because you used to have IQ3, it doesn't mean that you can't have IQ4 now. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining me. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their afternoon, depending on where you're watching from.
Thanks everyone for being here, Linz. Thank you so much for sharing all the amazing things that you know about IQ4. Like Linz said, there is the Academy course you can take. I dropped in the chat. You're getting started with IQ4 courses, but also make sure that you check out, there's a course in there called What's New in IQ. And as our team is making updates in the physical brain, I guess you could say, of the board, like Linz is saying, there's going to be small little micro courses that get released within that What's New in IQ course as well. I also dropped a YouTube link in the chat as well, and that is our playlist specifically with all the videos for your MX and RX boards. And then if you'd like to receive your certificate for attending today's webinar, go ahead and fill out that form that's in the chat and you'll receive that. And this recording will be emailed to you, and it'll also be posted on our YouTube channel. Thank you everyone so much for being here, and we'll see you next time.